All right, hello everyone. I'm Naimenki Rosinski, and today I'm joined by Zescht. He'll be my guest today, and we've come up with the idea of bringing analysts, casters, and making it a mini series. And Zescht will be my first guest today. Hi, how are you doing, Zescht?
I'm doing good. I'm excited what we're talking about. It's about home turf. It's about EMEA. So we have plenty of topics to mention and to talk about here.
Awesome, fantastic. So let's get cracking then. So as you mentioned, we'll be talking about EMEA. We'll be touching upon a little bit about the game itself. You know, some of the main things that have been happening in the Valorant region. But yeah, first let's start off with Liquid and Liquid success at the LCQ. So Zesh, obviously, Nivera came in to Liquid, Scream's very own brother, and they just, well, they tore it apart. Am I right? I mean, crazy stuff to see a newcomer into the game and just like get an ace in the very first round, against OBG. So Zesh, let's just start off nice and easy. What are your thoughts on that first game that Liquid played and just generally how they performed later on?
I have to say, I very much remember that I've watched that team comms video that Liquid always does, and I'm very sure that it was Yampi or someone saying after the days, "Welcome to Valorant." So the way he started was crazy, considering that it was surely not the strongest opponent. It was OBG. To be fair, I think if not the weakest of this entire tournament because of the time they've been together. At the same time, just that clutch alone, just that ace alone shows you that he's not in a situation where he's fully coming in and being like a greedy player or anything. He was really playing that intelligent, communicated right, and he's not just a hard copy of Cryptics with better aim. It's definitely something where he himself has developed massively over the time. I talked to the analyst of Liquid Bacon, and he said, I was the one who was telling him a lot of stuff. I was helping him in the beginning to get used to the game and used to the team kind of composition. At the same time, what happened in the long run is that he himself was voluntarily and independently learning stuff. And that's so crucial about Valorant when you're freshly coming into a team environment of the game. The man has tons of CS experience, but when you come into Valorant, and he really showed that to me. He showed really that he is proper solid on the roles he plays, a more supportive kind of way he does with Killjoy, with Solo, with those things. And he's very much capable of assisting his team, not taking too many risks, and work as a unit without having any mandatory need to be a star player because his roles, his agents, that wouldn't even allow that.
Yeah, very true. So you mentioned him taking up the Sovas, the KJs, but also the Viper, which was, I think, crucial in Liquid's run through the LCQ. Can you imagine him going on a more offensive role, or do you think he will stay in that position of being that person that is more supportive of the team rather than being this, let's say, the scream of the team, right?
Thing is, he will. I think there's no place anymore for any duelist because if there's one team that plays a lot of double duelists, it is basically Liquid, right? On Bind, they're the ones who have Jet and Race in the pack. For example, it's one of the things we could mention. It's a Reyna and a Race over there in Split, where some could say, okay, you can only go with one duelist, for example. Some decide to do that as well, Supermassive Place, but that's a different chapter. I think there's no space anymore for Liquid to do so because Scream on another agent is hard to imagine because the man is consistently hitting shots and is incredibly blessed individually. The only thing that might happen in the future that I could see is that maybe Yampi will step down from the Jet, which would be odd to be fair. I mean, on some maps he obviously plays Jet as we all know, and I definitely believe that it could if he sticks to the IGL role and it's too hectic for him. He could go down, but then he only plays Jet on Ascent. So it doesn't mean that we're gonna see the swap there. I think Nivera, considering the way he is, the way he behaves, a very calm, even maybe kind of shy guy, seems to fit perfectly on the role he's playing because he's not only playing it like, okay, I've watched a lineup video, I watched how the other pro players are playing that. He seems to be intelligent on his own, and this is a very unique skill that might be perfect on the agent he plays.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, you said blessed individually, right? Yeah, I mean, if you look at the roster of Liquid, you've got, Yumpy, you've got Scream, you've got this Nivera guy coming out of nowhere and, performing so well. Do you think maybe on some level he is kind of motivated to perform in such a way because of this brotherly bond in the team? Do you think this is a factor, or do you think it doesn't really matter? It's, they wouldn't even have to be related at all, and this is just, yeah. Let me hear your thoughts on that.
I mean, I can't judge because, I don't know how well they were when they grew up and so on. I mean, I remember Liquid posted a video um, where they were talking about the story of Nivera and, they were growing up together, and Scream initially didn't think that he has this competitive drive as he had back in the day. I don't know how close they actually are. I honestly cannot judge. What I could imagine, but like I said, I don't know, is that when you're having a bad day, when you're having a bad performance, maybe Scream is somebody you can rely on to cheer his brother up, or some who has a bigger impact than just a normal team player would have had. Possibly. I don't know if that's the case. It could have a major impact, but the only way to figure out is to ask them. So could be not, could be just the nice cherry on top, but I think it does not mean that without any brother in his team that he would perform significantly worse.
Yeah, fair point there. Right. Well, leaving Liquid behind, obviously they were the best team in the end. They were the ones who qualified for Champions. Were there any other teams that you were a bit disappointed with at the LCQ? Any teams that, didn't match your expectations, or didn't perform up to par?
I mean, G2 wasn't fun in the sense we know, because I think there were a lot of brusque mistakes I wouldn't have expected from this team. In all honesty, it's first of all a Mixwell having by far one of his worst tournaments ever, and it's not even a disrespect because it can happen. It's the way it is. But there were scenarios where he was playing, unfortunately, abysmal, but it's just the nature of the game that you sometimes have abysmal games. It's the timing that is worse. It's not him that he is like a bad player overall. I believe he's one of the most impactful as a support individual. At the same time, it's just problematic for me if you after the Futbolist series never get like over 200 ACS. Impact is not measured with the agent he plays purely in ACS. Don't get me wrong, but I think maybe with a Sky impact, for example, is a very good measure for impact is assists due to the flash, as an example, with the heals as an example. So that also being not really his strength, many things unfortunately not being his strength throughout the tournament, has been a super sad thing to see, because he's capable of doing much more. And also I thought Kellogg's was not on point. There were a lot of odd mistakes for him. There were a lot of scenarios where I didn't believe this is like the strong Kellogg's, or alternatively was the stage 3 Masters kind of Kellogg's honeymoon Kellogg's, and now he still actually needs to learn a lot more, and he always had the opportunity to be quite good in the positions he was. Maybe he was easy to read for some teams. But on top of that, to really add into it, I think fatigue with GT could also be a role, right? Yinzu was so nice, and we had this conversation where she was like, during Masters 2, after Masters 2, the both teams that were totally fatigued, that played all the tournaments basically, were the ones that couldn't perform at all during stage 3. I don't 100% agree in the sense that I think also like Fnatic did a major change because they said we're going to revamp everything. But at the same time, G2 making this change, making this run throughout the entire tournament, and now also getting into LCQ, I guess it's costly, because the most important thing with G2 is that this roster has been created and finalized a few days before actually stage 3 started. So it didn't feel like they had this proper, relaxing, calming period of being like, okay, now we have a good chunk of time where we can prepare ourselves for for a total revamp of what we would play. So they were a little bit disappointing. I think the biggest upside to everything has been Guild, because Guild has been by far one of the most consistent teams. Everybody's shitting on them for a certain reason. I don't think it's deserved. I really don't think it's deserved. And I just Guild is basically FPX in the second half of 2021. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, totally agree there. Right. Well, for me personally, the biggest surprise, one of the bigger surprises of the LCQ was how Futbolist performed, honestly.
True.
Like, obviously SMB, we're gonna talk about SMB in a second, but that lower bracket matchup with Futbolist SMB, I was really surprised to see Futbolist knock them out, and their overall performance, it was kind of a little bit out of nowhere, in my opinion. I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I see your point. At the same time, we just couldn't see Futbolist. It was just impossible, considering that they were not playing any mentionable field relevant tournaments after their appearance during EMEA Challenger playoffs too.
Yeah.
At the same time, what was I think one of the most crucial changes overall has been just Kiwi. It's always easy to highlight the Jet player. Obviously, there's much more in the team that has changed, but Kiwi was once again like a cherry on top. He was that X factor. He was that individual that could pop off so insanely well, consistently taking the positions of Cracks, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was Cracks previously in Futbolist. It was
think so.
Magoo was playing Jet, and Cracks was a totally different role. Pardon that, but nevertheless, he was really individually just on another level, a lot more blessed. He seemingly was that kind of guy who has a lot of freedom in the system, and also has been on the list for a lot of teams, right? A lot of Turkish teams were seemingly looking into it. I said maybe the Jet we want to pick up. And I think he has a bright career ahead of him. Futbolist overall, because we're talking about that later as well, there's another big test they have up ahead of them. And, with Red Bull home ground, it could be very interesting to see. What I have to add on top of that is just basically the thing that I'm so curious about is how the team will change and if their development will be stagnating now as they lift Sutu, their Italian coach, who was basically more on the sidelines, more creating stuff for the team. How that is different now for the team, for example.
Yeah. Right. So as you mentioned, Red Bull home ground is coming up shortly. You've been casting the qualifier, which put NIP right in the tournament coming up soon. How was the tournament in your eyes? Did you expect NIP to go all the way in such fashion, or did you expect another team to take that final spot?
The thing is, I was casting with the exceptional Ryan Central, and we're coming in and we're watching them fight against Bonsoir. And Bonsoir's all right, they deliver a decent attack, but then NIP is just ranking them 13-7 overall, not ranking them, but coming up with a decent win. At the end of the day, NIP just feels a lot like a rough diamond that you still need to cut there, but it's a really rough one. You just got it out of the mud, and it's still dirty. You still have to clean it up entirely. You still have to properly inspect it. Oh, is it actually that good? Because there were a good bunch of scenarios where, for example, they had miserable situations against 4 spies for some reason. That was very odd to watch. Chihuahua was overly aggressive in so many scenarios. JD had to play with 200 ping, basically because where he lives, it's not even his fault. It's disastrous to a certain degree. It's NIP who picked up very close wins against Fireflux, and also had to go on a third map, Fracture versus London United. And I believe London United could have won the match if they didn't need to just jump off. I think it was LVP. Let me see. I think they were playing LVP. Yeah, they were playing LVP before. Mm-hmm. And they had to get off that game instantly into the 1 versus NIP. Maybe a little bit fatigued. They played Fracture, where simply for the first time, we saw Yoru on them. First time this team has played. Malsi seemingly never played Euro before, which is not even something I would take it as an offense or anything. And he's playing that on a map where nobody's really feeling 100% secure yet. It's understandable that they lost. I think on a fully relaxed day, London United could have picked up the win because NIP is still struggling to a certain degree. The best about NIP though is that in case they will really finalize it and pick up Dimasick is just sticking to Cypher and it's just being Cypher. And I think that is something Dimasick is really good at. And something where I'm just going to see him shine at the entire time. He's individually quite strong in a good bunch of fights, and just does a solid, not Nats strong, but solid Cypher role.
Yeah, not Nats strong, but do you think that Dimasick has it in himself to actually become kind of a Nats grade player? Because we see Nats, being this kind of nasty, lurking, kind of very annoying to play against guy, right? And Dimasick certainly shined at certain key moments when he was on FPX. Unfortunately, he was dropped. Yeah, do you think Dimasick has it in himself to actually become a very similar great player like Nats from Gambit?
I mean, the first problem is, in my eyes, if you're getting dropped from FPX, the team that everybody believed that they're going to be the best throughout the entire year, nobody's going to be able to beat them. If you're going to get dropped there and basically seen as a weakness, maybe not the best sign, but maybe you just don't fit in the system. Let that one slide. Let that one be. He was in that. He had a strong run during the times in CS when he was playing with Avantgarde, but he was never that outstanding, exceptional. I don't know. I don't think much about one tricks. That's the first thing. One tricks are a big issue. Like for example, with Guild, to go back at that, Yassine is a one trick player basically to a certain degree, and he shines. He used to shine a lot on the Rays. Is picking up the Jet. His Jet doesn't look too convincing. Whilst he's having a lot of impact, I gotta admit, the stats don't tell it, but he has a good chunk of impact from time to time, sometimes doing very odd moves. Getting back to it, I don't think that Dimasick, time will tell. I think the best advantage so many players have, and I think that's a trend that's pretty much something we'll see in the future, is that only a few CS players will actually make it to the top echelon, because I think a lot of CS players are caught in still thinking it is a different game, and you have to get away with that. You have to really stop. Okay, it is just not CS, and of course he doesn't necessarily play CS in there, but it still feels like sometimes people are getting caught in that. Pretty much, let's say it like that.
Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, on the ground level, it's similar game, but once you get up, in the major leagues, it's not like CS. So yeah, that's a fair point right there. Right, but coming back to the upcoming Red Bull Home Ground tournament, this is gonna be a hell of a matchup, like matchup after matchup. It's just like the best teams we have in EMEA. It's going to be absolutely insane. I mean, NIP has gone into like all the best teams, G2, SMB, Gambit, Fnatic, Liquid, you name it, like all of them. It's even difficult for me personally to gauge who's going to be like the best team at the event, or who's gonna win the event, let alone, because it's a stacked tournament. It's crazy.
It's massive. It is insane what we're going to see, because there's a lot of teams we haven't seen in a while. I'm excited. What will Navi bring to the table, for example, because they're all looking like a solid team. Not at the level we could expect them, but they look like a solid team. Very honestly. Will G2 recover? That's, I think, quite important. How strong will Giants be? Because they're getting smashed right now versus UCAM, and a lot of people were like, give Giants some time, and they might just make it. Some people even thought they could make it into Masters. So that's going to be interesting. Seeing Fnatic back, this is the biggest storylines of this is getting to see Fnatic again. I think I've never had the opportunity to point it out, but I'm just absolutely fascinated if Anders, their new strategic coach, got the freedom He always because I remember I talked to him. He was ready to help a lot of teams, but a lot of teams were just not listening. They were just not keen, not volunteering to be like, your idea sounds extremely weird at the beginning, but let's try. And a lot of teams seemingly were not interested in hearing him out. And the man is a absolute. He's a data analyst genius in my eyes. He's really understand where he's coming from. He has been working in financial for some certain time. Was really understanding that workflow. I mean, I'm just so curious to see, because Fnatic might just bring the weirdest shit to the table we've ever seen. But when you ping someone like Anders, it's gonna be big. It's gonna be big. And the next thing is there are so many things. There are so many things like FPX, for example. Who is their fifth? Who is their officially their fifth? Then Heretics. Are they actually playing? Supermassive plays. They will most likely not play. Then obviously the thing that I'm most excited about, no idea why, is obviously seeing how far will Big go. Because I think they have a promising roster right now. I think they have a good opportunity, a good chance, a good possibility to make an exceptional run. Not winning. There are too many strong teams here, but not winning. But then there is the system, which is even going to be more interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is such a special system that the event has implemented. We've seen it before, but again, here with all of those strongest teams, picking their home ground, and then the team that all BO5s, by the way, which is insane, and taking 2 maps and finishing off the series at that. That's it brings a little bit, that it goes into the players' heads, that, okay, we have to win this one because this is our home ground. And if we don't win this one, then the next one, it could be the end for us at this match. So definitely looking forward to that. And that's for sure the event to watch at the beginning of next month. Right, Zescht. I wanted to ask you also, because obviously we see you casting a lot of things. As mentioned before, you've casted the qualifier for the Red Bull Homeground event. But also we see you at VCT, casting there. Can you tell us a little bit about how the casting at the VCT versus casting at other events perhaps differs from each other? Are there any differences, or maybe it's all just the same for you? Any thoughts there?
The best thing about VCT, I guess, is there's an entire crew. I mean, the Freaks for You is organizing it. I guess a lot of people know that. Mm-hmm. And that's a proper production they're doing. Like every day, even in the online days, we had a rundown meeting. So you're going for every single point of the entire show to make sure everybody's understanding the bigger picture. Then you're obviously just basically thrown into it. You just have to cast. You don't take care of anything else, which is obviously great. And it's just a absolutely more serious environment to a certain degree. Like Red Bull Homeground, Ryan and myself. First of all, the finale of the qualifier, it definitely was not a very good cast for me personally. I was just absolutely not feeling it at all. I was just having not a good day seemingly, and just not focused into the game. It was just not as good as I should have and could have been. But getting away from that, obviously you realize that, and there's also the big difference. Like when we had last gen's qualifier, we were also casting offline, and I think that was it was by far the best cast I've ever done. I was casting with Ryan, and I'm practicing on a regular with Ryan. He's a very, very charming, friendly, intelligent guy, who I personally like a lot. And I think he's doing a brilliant job at setting up the pace. And then when you are offline, you could really work way better with each other. You see when the other wants to chime in. You realize also the other one carrying the emotions in. So both basically hyping it up just based off of the emotions. That's quite amazing to see. And I'm very, very happy. Very, very happy that we had the opportunity to cast offline. Even if it was just, unfortunately, one day, I would have wished to do way much more of that. Yeah, I have to say it's still just a different feeling, because like Red Bull, you just fool around a little bit. You just you don't fool around. You're taking it serious because you're being paid to cast. You're supposed to do that. But you have a bit more time to banter around and so on. So yeah, I like that. I liked it. At the same time, that specific one was not too amazing. But either way,
Yeah. Well, everyone has kind of off days, and so no biggie there for sure.
happens.
Yeah, of course. Right. So we had a little bit of a brief mention of SMB before Supermassive Blaze, and recently we've seen, what I like to call their crumble. Turco, Pora, and Russ announced that they are free to explore other options that basically on Twitter, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they are leaving, but let's be honest. If you're told that and you're posting on Twitter that you can explore other options, it most likely means that you're gonna be leaving the team. And Easy and Brave are the ones remaining on the roster so far, but yeah, and they're supposed to be playing in Red Bull home ground. I don't know how that will work, but we'll see. But
I don't think they will play.
you don't think so? Yeah.
No, the most interesting part is, will Heretics play? Will Supermassive Blaze play? Yeah, I think we'll see another two teams come in again. If I have a wish, it would be London United, for example. But we're gonna see. So yeah, sorry, I was interrupting you.
Oh, no worries, no worries. Yeah. So what I find interesting, actually, specifically about SMB, is their very quick rise and kind of a gradual decline that has happened. So it's like they came out of nowhere to get themselves into Masters Berlin. Their performance was good, but I guess a lot of people thought they would make it much further than that. Yeah, so I think that they're one of those teams that they were hyped up, and then we can see this decline. And who do they bring in now? Do they make an international roster? Who do they poach? What's going to happen with them? What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean,
tough to say.
I could be lying to you, but I really don't know. I mean, some people say that there will be nothing happening. Yeah. Their considerations of some maybe going international or something. Nobody knows, really. Nobody has the slightest clue on what's happening. I mean, them crumbling, that they made it into Masters, yeah, deserved, absolutely. I mean, they were having a super clean run overall, only losing against Gambit. Proper stuff, really. Props to them. The interesting part for me, in all honesty, is, though, I think one thing we noticed during Masters, there were hardly, when a team loses a round in a stupid fashion, in an unnecessary fashion, you really realize that they're down, they're unhappy, they're feeling bad about it, so on and so on. It's understandable. And then, to go for a bigger picture, and then you go for Gambit, for example, and you see Gambit, and they lose a 4-versus-1 against Ye on Haven. The guys are fucking laughing. They're just having a laugh. It's just like they just made a prank video of 2018 of YouTube, and it felt like SMB was the total opposite to that degree. When they were down, man, they were down. They were really, oof. It didn't feel well. It didn't seem good. They were morally absolutely taken by it. And this can be a spiral, I think, to a certain degree, where people really are not keen to play anymore, not keen, because I don't know the people personally. I just had a bit of conversation with Brave, and Brave is he's an adorable lad. He's so nice. He's so friendly. But the thing is, with SMB, the most interesting part, I was talking to Tenny. Tenny is a great guy. I very much appreciate him, being so helpful and being so friendly. And the thing that I found so interesting is they were just characters clashing. And I think the biggest example is you have a main duelist called Izzy. And during last year's qualifier, suddenly Russ is picking up Jet and Reyna on certain maps. Obviously, I think, it has been talked about previous, you know what? He just doesn't randomly pick. I'm gonna pick Jet. You have to pick something else. But it's weird to suddenly go into a double duelist setup when it's something very unusual to do on maps like split. I mean, it's not super unusual, but it's just not super common as well. Like a split, for example. Like, you don't see it too often happening. And there I was like, wow, is that really the play? Is that really the move? Is that how it should go? So, okay, I mean, I may have to take it back considering Sentinels is playing like triple duelist. That's even weirder. But the thing is, you don't, maybe there was some situation where like, I think we should play two duelists. Oh, if you didn't play too well as a duelist there, I can also play one, so on and so on. And then the worst part of all of this, for example, in the split thing, where they used to only have one duelist, you suddenly force Turco into Sky, an agent he didn't play for previous to stage 3, and he never really played that well on, and you suddenly force him to play that agent on a map he never even played that agent on. It's just a recipe for catastrophe in my eyes, and it's the way it is. I'm just excited to see if they will stay in Turkey, what will be the next Turkish super team, because right now there is not this big, massive Turkish super team, for me personally.
Yeah. I mean, there have been some talks about some potential internal problems. Nothing has surfaced that's been, crystal clear in terms of whether there have been some disputes, but there have been some stuff. But anyway, it doesn't really, it is what it is. We'll see if they stick together, and we'll see what Supermassive Blaze decides to do next. But definitely, it's a shame. In my eyes, it's a real shame, because I was kind of excited for them. They just, again, they came out, with this new team, bringing in Pora, who was really, really solid on Heretics back in the day. And it's just like crumbled in the end, which is a real shame.
It is, and
yep.
and to add on top of that, I think it has shown at least a lot of potential for what some of the players can do. Like you mentioned, Pora seemed to be working quite well in the IGL.
Yeah.
And entirely Stage 3 has stopped the stigma of Turkish teams jet rush into sites, explosion, big bam. That has really stopped, thankfully, because people were just also giving them credit where credit is due, and SMB was maybe underrated for some. I mean, everybody was thinking it was a Turkish super team, but maybe some were figuring, can they make it that far? But they showed us that they have more to offer than just pure raw aim. And I think that's something that finally stopped. And Turkey overall seemed to be taken more serious as a region. Because in Stage 2, EMEA Challenger playoffs, I felt a lot of people were like, okay, EU is winning this easily. Why are those teams invited? Exaggerated, but still. And that has stopped. It had to come to an end at one point. And, maybe it's just the start of even a better future. We'll see.
Right, Zescht, I know that Champions is really far off. It's still, we got Red Bull on the way. All eyes will be on that, but it's in December, I believe. The 2nd of December kicks off. Given that you're following up with EMEA teams pretty intensively, what do you think of EMEA currently, and how much of a chance does an EMEA team have at Champions, if you take into consideration how they've performed recently?
It's gonna be specifically interesting with Red Bull, because we got Liquid there, we got Fnatic there, we got Gambit there.
G2, I believe.
Those three are. I think I'm not missing anyone. No, there should be Ascent, of course. Ascent. Sorry. Yeah. Pardon. I mean, Ascent is about to play in LVP, but the thing is, the Red Bull tournament is, partially just being like, do teams actually take it serious with the system that is being in place? Because, I have to be honest, that system is cool. It's fun. But I don't know if so many, like, the idea about the system is of Red Bull Homeground is it's a best of every game. Every game is a best of 5. And if you win the first 2 maps, you already won. But if it's like you don't win the first 2 maps, it goes 1-1, because every team is allowed to pick their first, to make their favorite map their insta pick. And it's not the opponent banning their favorite pick, for example. It's going to be interesting to see if teams take it serious, because I think that could have been that one battleground where we see, oh, how did Gambit develop? How did Gambit evolve? Did Fnatic do this and that? But will teams really reveal strategy big there? No, I don't believe they'll do so. It's like the most difficult part for me is Fnatic. It is Fnatic. It is purely Fnatic. That is making me so interesting, so curious, so massively exciting how good they'll be. Because I've said it in the past and I'll say it again. I could imagine Enders is a game changer. I could imagine Enders is setting it all, is the one who's changing it all. I could really see that happening. I could really see him being the one who has turned the team upside down to a certain degree. I mean, sure, there are people who can think individually. Boaster is an intelligent guy and a great IGL. Mini's also a capable coach, so it's not like he was the one, okay, we're going to repaint this entire house and now call it differently. It is basically a possibility of him having a bigger impact than some might think. So, to come back to your question, I see the opportunity. Gambit has been still playing one of the best Valorant we've ever seen in a very great approach, in a very great system, in a very intelligent team play, where it seems like also mentality. Like the example I gave to you earlier with the Yay thing. The guys were losing. They were all peeking in a single Marshall of one of the best player in the entire world, losing the round, potentially even losing that map called Haven, and they're laughing. It's like a joke to them, because they're not that stubborn and not in a situation where they're like, oh, this is not even the map we crack, but we're losing this. No, it's just them casually playing it. Salah, I was talking to Salah, he came actually up with the point to give him credit, but Gambit is on my list by far, by stretch. Will Sentinels get their stuff together? Nobody knows. Is there any other region we really have to pay particular interest to? I don't want to sound harsh, but I don't believe so. I think EU versus NA is going to be it again. And then who do we got? Sentinels, Envy, Gambit, Fnatic, Ascent. I have to honestly read it. Liquid, NA Last Chance Coming. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
If even statistically, the chances are highly favoring EU, so it should be European team winning. It should be EMEA team winning, in my eyes.
Yeah.
Who exactly?
Hard to say at this point for sure. I mean, especially that we still have over a month until the event itself. But yeah, we'll see how things develop. But yeah,
True.
Could be anyone's game.
To add on top of that, I could believe the first few games of Fnatic could be decisive. Because in case, hypothetically, it's just hypothetically, they really revamped their entire system again and really things have changed massively, then the question is, when it's put to a test, right? They're pracking what they're doing, obviously. But when it's put to a test, will it actually be functional enough? That's the thing. That's the thing I'm really looking forward to. Will Fnatic have a new system that might be just, the FPX effect. The FPX effect where we're 2 steps ahead of what we need, but as we can't fully incorporate that, we're actually messing things up. This is the thing that sometimes happened with FPX, where it seemed like overthinking is an issue. And I don't hope that happens with Fnatic. I hope the system is set in place and it will just basically, it has, just from the sentiment I have, my gut feeling, an opportunity to revolutionize things again. Maybe I'm also just too much on the Anders hype train, alternatively. One of the two.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes then. Yeah, definitely exciting times ahead of us when it comes to Valorant. Sure. Definitely, especially EU. Well, NA, just to remind everybody, NA still didn't finish the LCQ, but we'll see how that goes for them, because it's been a mess. Let's just say that. It's been a mess, but anyway, we'll see how that goes there. Right, Zescht, so let's move into the game itself, Valorant.
Yeah.
So, let's talk agents, and let's start with my favorite agent, Omen. I don't know who your favorite agent is, but Omen's my favorite. Unfortunately, Omen has been kind of sidelined, living, in the shadow of Astra. Brimstone is kind of picked sometimes on bind, sometimes not. But anyway, out of the controllers, Astra is definitely up there. Just to give one example, during the Red Bull qualifier, Astra has been picked 15 times. Eccles being the guy who picked her 5 times. Omen has only been picked 3 times. What do you think is the reason behind this? Is just Astra such a goddamn good agent, or is just Omen not good enough purely as a controller to kind of rivalize with Astra?
I think it's simple. To start with the most simple question, is there any agent outside of Astra that can smoke the entire map at any given point? No.
That's the number one.
That's
reason.
like that should be the only argument, actually.
Yeah.
Because let's be real, what is the main function of Brimstone, Astra, and Omen? It's smoking. It's basically smoking. It's basically just smoking the map. This position, this position, this position. Boom. Astra can do it in no time. And technically speaking, she can even smoke 5 times a round. So. There's no discussion for me regarding that. She's quite good, but let's isolate that. Let's say, okay, everybody can smoke. Fine. What's then the next opportunity? Well, obviously you have a gravity well, which is unique in itself. It can deny plants, it can deny diffusers, it can get players out of positions, it can stun players. Not only are players stunned, and not only are players in this concussed situation, no, but they're also fragile, which means they have this, they're easier to kill. Gravity well. What else do we have? The Molotov is good of Brimstone, totally good thing to have. And Omen hypothetically has no stalling opportunity in that sense. So there's not like something, I'm going to stop you from planting. That just doesn't exist with Omen. He can flash you, but you can still go. You can still use everything you're blind, but you can still use everything according to plan. So, right. So no time delay, for example. The Nova Pulse, Stim Beacon, I think I don't even need to talk about that. Shrouded Step, so like the teleport thing. Yeah, it's quite good. It has potential to fake out things in teleporters. The Nova Pulse from Astra isn't that strong. All right, whatever, but it's still better than a Shrouded Step in my eyes. It's not even comparable because those are just two different things entirely. Can I compare a teleport to a Nova Pulse? No. What has more opportunities for a team? I still think a Nova Pulse it is. And when we come down to ults, I think Brimstone has the strongest ult of all 3 in a direct manner. But at the same time, I think people have figured out how to use Astra ult quite well. People have figured out what to do specifically in situations where the spike has to be planted or diffused. So that story is... I mean, we saw it. I think it was Futbolist who did that kind of one way. Ryan was pointing it out, where on Split, you have to imagine we're going on the A site and back in CT, back on screens. Killjoy was doing was doing her lockdown, and there was the Astra wall, which was lined up in a way that you can't shoot the Killjoy ult, and if you're trying to peek into the Killjoy ult, the Killjoy is standing on her own ult, and if you're trying to peek from any other angle, you will be blind because when you're walking through it or when you're standing in the middle of Astra's ult, you have this purple kind of vision, so you have no opportunity of destroying the thing. It's a brilliant set piece, for example. But getting back to what I was trying to say, it's impossible. It's impossible to say Omen is better. It's for me, Guild was doing that, but Guild was doing that basically because they were saying we want to be unpredictable. Fine, whatever. But I think Leo is great on Astra. He can also play a specifically exceptional Sova. So I do believe it's not worth to come up with, we're playing Omen because we want to be unpredictable. I don't believe that's the best thing to do, because is it really worth sacrificing that utility for being unpredictable, or shouldn't it be your playstyle? But that's a difficult kind of conversation.
Yeah. So you mentioned, how comparing the two agents is next to impossible. yeah, it's.
I think
mean,
it's clear to a sense that when we just talk about the class they're in, it is clearly it is just easy peasy lemon squeezy
yeah.
Astra all the time. But
Yeah. I see your point totally. So there have been some leaked upcoming changes. Obviously, we do not know if for sure they're going to be implemented into the game, but let's just assume that they will be. So the two changes that may change how Omen's utility works is that his flash will only flash the enemies. So, setting up for a side execute, Omen players will no longer have to watch out for team flashing teammates. But also, the one that interests me the most is when Omen commits to his ultimate, if he commits to it fully, it flashes enemies. Now, obviously, we don't really know how that works. Will it flash enemies in kind of an area, or do they have to be looking at them, or how that works? But to me, from what you've said, that doesn't really matter. If those changes will be implemented, it doesn't matter because these are not concerned with his smoking ability. They are only concerned with his ability to, limit the visibility of the enemies. So that still doesn't quite, let's say, fix the problem that Astra has over Omen. What's your take? Let's just say that they will come into effect. What's your take on it?
um so the thing is, in my eyes, first of all, um I think the ult is going to work like Reyna's Leer. That's how I imagine it will work. And it will work, it will be the radius of visibility seen. If there's going to be like a vision cap where you imagine, for example, Omen is ulting on the end of the C side and you're standing down C long. Will you still be blinded? Would be kind of weird considering the range. But either way, let's leave that aside. I think it will work like the Leer of Reyna. That's my imagination. That's how I imagine it's going to work. Is it going to be that big of a deal? Maybe, but I have to see it into play because what is happening when you have a massive Leer? Well, it doesn't seem effective enough to me to have an ult basically as a flat, because where is Omen usually ulting? Well, he's usually ulting in positions where he's having a, for example, opportunity to plant because everybody's on the other side. Who are you flashing then? As an example, it's just one example. There are applicable situations where it works. And with regarding the flash, so his paranoia part, it's blind. Before people will kill me, I believe it will be beneficial for teams that are really fast on attack. But the question is, how many teams are left that are really fast on attack? We saw it in LCQ. A lot of teams were slowing down their tempo. And most importantly, Liquid, but a lot of teams were slowing down their tempo. So it might be cool because you can set up faster attacks to a certain degree. It still doesn't change the main thing. If it would be like Omen can now flash on the entire map, all right, okay, that might be interesting. But Omen is the one that now is Omen is an agent that still can flash on the entire. Or if he would get a third smoke, he can smoke around the entire map, or he gets like a third smoke. Well, okay, interesting. A third rechargeable smoke, oh, that would be hard to watch. But either way, I believe it's still not going to change too much. It's really not that sick. It's really not that great. And I very much believe. What do you want to do to? I mean, honestly, what do you want to do to Astra? It just feels like you have no chance of. If you don't want to break her, there's no way of getting her out of the game, because a lot of people were, when we go back, I have to quickly go there. When we go back, And during stage 3, a lot of people liked Astra. Then there was EMEA Challenger playoffs, and Astra got that nerf where she couldn't instantly use her abilities, and she was just not able to. And her recall and everything, it just took longer. And there was like, really, I'm really not gonna play that agent anymore. And we came back to Masters. We came back to LCQ. Everybody was understanding you need to play Astra. It's just. I don't know what's supposed to happen, honestly.
Yeah,
I really don't know.
it's very difficult to, like how exactly how you said. How do you change Astra now to give Omen, give Brimstone like an equal chance, equal footing? Because yeah, as you said, like placing the stars all over the map, dragging people off of diffuses, that's already insane. If you just like mention it to someone who has no knowledge of Valorant, if you say that to them, it's like, wow, that's pretty strong, I would say, right?
Totally.
So
100%.
yeah, while meanwhile Omen is trying to place a smoke on the other bomb side, and it's still traveling, and people are already on site before it gets there. That's my main gripe of Omen, So, and I hate
I
it.
fully feel you.
I hate
fully
it.
feel you on that.
Yeah, but well, yeah, but I think, as you said, third smoke for Omen, that would be solid.
Maybe.
But
On the entire map as well could be
yeah,
kind of interesting.
that would be something. Would still
Yeah.
take a while to get there though, so
Totally.
don't know if that's an option. But all right. Anyway, right. Also wanted to touch upon KO for a second. KO is an
Okay,
interesting agent. By design, he's awesome. Like in my eyes, he's cool. I mean, his overall design and kind of how he can pop flash like CS style. It's like popping those flashes over the walls and stuff like that. It's pretty damn cool. Though many people don't really think he is as great as some other make him out to be. He still has a hard time being an initiator comparing to Sova, to Sky.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like Sky's flashes, Sova's ability to reveal. What are your initial thoughts on KO, by the way?
So I think with all that what you said, first of all, as we're speaking, Ascent has put Bone Cold onto KO, which is kind of interesting on Ascent. So Ascent has put Bone Cold on Ascent onto KO. Well, that's kind of interesting to see because a lot of people like NIP has been doing that as well. There were also the ones who put Rhyme onto that agent. The thing is, for me, I still need to see someone playing that really good. Like, really good. That's the only concern I have. I think KO can be used quite well and can be absolutely abused. Like, Steel was really solid in many ways, where he was, for example, on the same map, denying the opportunities of Nats because he was shutting him down, tripwires didn't work, yada yada. And that obviously leads to free space. It's just interesting to me if someone will be able to perfection him. Because in a lot of scenarios, for example, with that NIP thing I've mentioned in Red Bull Homeground where we're casting them, it just felt like the Sky Flash would have been better there. And that's like one of the crucial... Let's be real. What does KO offer? His dagger is unique. Let's leave it there. His fragment, not too convinced. And his flash is obviously the category of initiators. A crucial thing to me. Because Soba doesn't have it, but he's like by far the best info gatherer. So leave that aside. And with Sky, she's a perfect flasher, decent info gatherer, and also a healer. Does KO offer that much? I think yes, if you perfection it. If there's really a team that, for example, knows perfectly how to use his flashes, like by the book good. That's the only option I see.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, you said that we're missing kind of a guy that has mastered KO and using his utility. We saw Scream trying to take up the reins of KO. At VCT Stage 3 Challengers too. Liquid had a pretty okay run. Scream was on that KO until they met Giants, where they fell 2-0. they had to drop to the lower bracket, and there they faced Fnatic. And that was the time when they were like, okay, guys, we gotta switch things up. It's Fnatic. Let's stop messing about. And, we saw Scream go back on that jet. Team Liquid overcame Fnatic and then overcame Giants, right?
Yeah.
And then I got to talk to Scream afterwards, and he said,
I heard the interview. I exactly know what he said. It was Sliggy's decision, and we directly changed it afterwards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But he also said that I didn't have enough time to show people KO.
Yeah.
But unfortunately afterwards we didn't really see him back at that KO, and now with Nivera in the loop, I can't see him going back to KO anytime soon, especially that it's Scream. He can tap heads seriously bad, like really freaking good.
Yeah.
So
the thing is, I don't see him play KO anymore. Maybe someone else in the team. But I don't see him do that, because if Scream has shown one thing particularly during LCQ, is that, I mean, he's good at fragging. That's, I think, obvious. But besides that, him having a second life, like him kill, dismiss, him kill, dash. Those are the things that I think a Scream needs. That makes a Scream as strong as he is. Because otherwise, I think he wouldn't have that kind of impact, individually speaking, and he wouldn't be that strong as a player, because that's what makes him special. And the good thing about Scream is that he shows us that you don't need an operator to be a good jet. I think that's a very important thing to show people that other agents are able to play that weapon. You don't always need to dash away. You can just play it in a different manner, or in a passive manner, or whatever. So yeah, I'm very happy to see what has happened to the team, what has happened with the team, that Scream has stopped playing that agent. And I'm still looking for it, because it seems like recently the trend in Europe has been for a few teams, like I talked about, just Ascent, just playing it right here, right now. It's interesting to see. A team that also is innovative in many ways is 10 Star. They were the ones to play Double Sentinel over on you also did that interview. They played Double Sentinel and Breeze.
Breeze, yeah.
Yeah, that's obviously something that which you have to think about first and make it work. I think they were quite decent on it. It wasn't, but it never was like. I think also funny-wise, Anders was the one saying you need double Sentinel on it, or double Initiator, double Sentinel, one of the two.
Sentinel, I believe. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You have to try things. You have to be innovative. And 10 Star is a team that I think can be very innovative. I mean, they also got Milan as their coach, who's a quite intelligent lad. Pardon, as their analyst. So I'm just looking forward to that. Honestly, at this point in time, I'm just looking forward to it. And I believe that 10 Star could be one of the teams that we also need to take a look out for in the future. But for now, we need to see if KO actually comes into play for many, because then the next question is, to finalize the point, Ascent, do they really pick KO right now because they want to play KO? Because honestly, it's LVP. Does it matter too much? It's good. It's probably good. It's good experience in a sense. I get, and good prize money if you win it. But yeah, I don't believe that if this doesn't work out in this game, they'll ever play it again.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, kind of suffering a fate of Yoru, although Yoru is a different topic, but yeah, like I can't really imagine, KO being anytime soon, unless obviously changes come into effect, like a Viper or a Sky, like must have on some maps. It's just, I can't imagine that happening, but anyway. All right, Zescht, it's been a pleasure. Just a closer. Tell us what's going on with you in the nearest future. Where can we see you? When can we see you? Have you got anything lined up, caster-wise, or whatever you have going on?
To answer that question, no. Nothing at the moment. I imagine I'll not be a Champions. It's just my wild guess. I don't see it happening, but it's no big deal. I mean, with the people who are playing, same with the casting. I think you always want to get better and make it there at one point. But yeah, I mean, first of all that, and second of all, I mean, maybe I'll do more VOD reviewing on my stream when I finally have my new graphical layout coming out.
Oh, nice.
Because otherwise it looks like it's not as good as it should be. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. No real casting for the moment. So I'm looking forward to it.
All right, awesome, Zesh. Thank you so much, Zesh. It's been a pleasure being, well, my first guest here at Run It Back's little feature we're trying to start get up and running. Thank you so much for your insights. They've been absolutely invaluable. And yeah, we wish you all the best in your future endeavors, you know, casting, whatever you wish to do. You're an intelligent guy. I'm sure it's out there for you, man. All right. Thank you so much for your time,
Thank
Zesh.
you, man. Appreciate
All right.
it.
Thank you. Bye.
See you.